some projects over there trying to. All right, council. Let's go ahead and get started. Paola, if you can please show us, it's 6:30 right now. And this is a notice for us to have a workshop on the 25th, July 25th, 2023 at Lytle City Hall. The purpose of this workshop is to discuss the proposed tax abatement program, just like we had actually asked us to set up. So turn it over to our city administrator. Here we go, man.
So council, before you is just a working draft copy of one I found. I think this one actually came from the city of Fort Worth. Last night, I did get a copy from our current city attorneys on one that they drafted for the city of Cibolo. There's a little shorter, I have it over here, and if y'all want, we can look at that one tonight too, or I can send it out as an email, however we want to do. The first couple pages, just the resolution, so we can skip through some of that, skip through the exhibit A. And at the bottom, we're going to start with this page 4.
Brad, do you have some extras of these?
Yes, I do. I think it is.
We have, does everybody have theirs?
Anyone?
Yeah, if you have one.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We've all had it for a while, so I don't know if y'all want to read through actual definitions, if y'all have any questions on the definitions, but there is, on page 5, under office premise, there was one, I don't know if it came out, I highlighted it, it talked about, on their office premise means one or more multi-level office buildings, each one of which consists of 15,000 square feet. I don't know what y'all think on that. There was that one there under Q.
You also had
On I see. Yeah. Under I too, there were some up there under a hotel convention premise. Some of the stuff there, it talks about to provide a destination conference facility with 250 or more hotel rooms, and more than that.
Well, can you start at the beginning of definitions and go one by one?
Yes,
Well, one of the things I needed clarification on was the first one, item A, on the definitions. It says full or partial. Did we decide what type of abatement we're going to allow? Is it full or partial?
That is going to be determined on a case-by-case basis. Under the way this one works. The one that we've got from our current city attorney, it's actually got a kind of a spreadsheet formula that based on the value of your project and the number of years you want the abatement for is how much of a percentage. But this leaves it open on a case-by-case kind of basis for the council to look at and say, you know what? I know the last project got a 50% abatement, but yours, you do 2 less employees. We are only gonna, I wasn't sure how y'all wanted to work on that. Like I said, we can look at the other one too. I can send it out by email.
And that was for a maximum of 10 years, right?
Yes, sir. The maximum is 10 years and it's only for the increased value of the property. So if I currently own it, we're not abating the current. If it's worth $1 million now, we're not abating that. We can only abate what's above that $1 million if I come in and do it and meet all the other requirements.
If I understand correctly, this will always be on a case by case, and every case will come before us for final approval. Is that
Yes.
right?
And this document was from Pearland because on item E, it still shows the city of Pearland.
Oh, it was Pearland, that's what I found the other one, that was a Pearland, okay. Pearland.
That would be.
I thought it was really weird that
Matt, do you
Where
have
those
enough
really-
copies of the other ones?
I do, sir, yes, sir.
Okay, council, why don't we take a look, we have two good examples. The one that he's passing out right now is one that our attorneys have already reviewed and actually said thumbs up on for somebody else. You can use it as a comparison between the two as we go through. We'll just follow Matt's lead on there, but you kind of have an idea between the two of them. And the one that they have is a lot shorter, much shorter than the one that they have in there. The one that we actually using as a guide, but both of them have a little bit of good discussion points on there. And what Matt was talking about is on page number 4, on the one that he just handed out for Cibolo. And that will give you the little charts that they used on there. So it had a chart on there based on how much investment, how many years you would actually do that, and what would be the abatement amount. We'll go with that. So very easy. I thought that was a great idea for them to throw that in there. And this doesn't need to stay this way. We can change it if we feel we need to go ahead and change it. But it's a quick, easy guide for somebody to go ahead and take a look at that.
So the council, the good news is, the reason we're doing this way is we're trying to save some cost with the legal, right? I think that was all okay. Let's try to put all of our stuff together. Let's do this one and then send it to legal for review and let them mark it up. If y'all want, we can, because I just got this one, we can scrap this one if y'all want. And we can go straight and look at the one that legal's already reviewed and already prepared for another city. So we know that they're happy with everything that's in this document.
Remind me which one's the one legal?
City of Cibolo is the one that we were just provided, that our legal department, our city attorney currently have already provided, worked on, and done. If y'all want to look at it, we keep going the way we are. I don't want to.
complain, but it would have been nice to get this one.
Yeah, we just got it.
I got that one last month, yes, sir.
The only thing is, this is based on cost, I guess, not cost, but the value amount. The other thing to keep in mind too is if that business were to bring in jobs,
And that's,
that would outweigh more if more jobs were being brought in. Because I think this one that,
the one from, that we got apparently talks about the number of jobs.
the number of
Yeah.
jobs.
Yes, sir.
So if we could incorporate that into that table as well. Yeah, they just put,
Under, on page 3, under general criteria, subsection C, economic qualification, I haven't read it well. but
Yeah,
it's
those
about
creative for at least 25 additional people.
I think the biggest thing with this is, we have to take into consideration how large of an industry or what we're actually looking at. You gotta look at the footprint and the industry you're bringing out. You want to bring jobs, but honestly, at the same time, you gotta worry about how much in one location jobs do you want to bring in. And you flood a particular area, whether or not we're ready to be able to take on that size of an organization. So, the things that we've seen that have come here have been asking questions, have been more in the, I would say 50 and below, something like that, Matt. The ones that we've gotten along those lines. We haven't really gotten, in the sense of the big employer that goes along with that. And that's at a given time. They might rotate some folks. It might be a 24-hour operation, but it's not like you bring a large group.
the other thing to consider too, if you bring in like a data farm, a lot of that, it's very minimal personnel. Just, it's basically just maintaining the system. So that,
Bring
but
in
yeah,
Lowe's.
it's a high price.
Lowe's or Home Depot. No, it's-
Now that,
Yeah.
not only does it bring in employees, but it brings in customers.
Yeah, it's a big footprint too. Matt, have we lost potential developers here because we don't have a tax abatement plan right now?
That I'm aware
You
of,
said-
no.
Sorry,
I've not been told that directly.
but people do ask about it when
Yes.
they
And that's what kind of drove this here. We've had that question already.
Well, they probably know enough. If you say we don't have a tax abatement program, then that's all they need to know.
Yeah, this has been, I can tell you, from the time from the council, and I got asked to be part of the economic development portion of it. Folks have been asking, but in the past, it never got the attention of being able to, okay, let's look into it a little bit more. But the question has been asked for a while. It's been going on for years, whether or not we've had anything like that. But I think we're at a point now, especially with the residential portion of it, you're gonna have a larger workforce that'll be available in this area, so that's the attraction that goes along with that. So,
And some of the conversations, so if a new company's coming in and they need utilities extended to their site, we don't always have that capital to extend the utilities to their site. So if we say, hey, if your project meets this criteria, you could apply for a tax. You extend the utilities at a cost of X, give those to the city, and then we work out the abatement to recoup that cost for you over a number of years. And it's a win-win. We get the utilities put in, they're gonna buy the utilities anyways, and then they help recover that cost.
I'll give you one example that actually, this is a few years back when we first started some talks with folks in San Antonio. And one of the biggest things being pushed and the council asked for back then was a hospital, be able to bring a hospital in here. So I know when we went to San Antonio, we asked them, they asked for, hey, is there anything that you guys can do for us? Well, we don't have anything that goes along with that. I know the most recent one, working with a more closer hospital in here, it was just, we just missed out the opportunity. That's all it was. And it was just because we didn't have anything that went along with that. So I would encourage us to really think about adding a hospital in here for us to take, or some sort of medical facility that we could actually attract, because our community and with the growth, we need to be able to incentivize being able to bring in, whether it's a super urgent care clinic with a helipad, and I encourage every time we talk to somebody is we need to have a helipad facility with it. Or we want to ask for something small like a 50-bed hospital, or 25-bed, whatever we want to incentivize on there. But we need to have some sort of medical facility.
Can you explain what's abated?
I'm sorry,
What is actually abated?
abated the ad valorem tax. That's it.
That would be taxed on the
The property,
appraised value
Yes.
of the land or the property itself?
the land, from what I gather.
So then why is it on page 7, ineligible property, that says land? That's what threw me off on E, page 7E of the, on the GE notice. I'm probably reading that wrong.
Oh, hold on, okay, I know what we're talking. It's not, because when they build, it's not the land, it's the building you're putting on there.
Right.
That's
so
what that's what you're abating, I'm sorry.
You're abating.
You're abating the value of the building that's being placed on the land,
Okay, not the land.
not the land, yeah, because the land doesn't have much value. The improvement is the improvement is the building. Although
And then
it's
there's guidelines on, like you said, on the amount of improvement.
and this is my first time working on one of these, so we're gonna work through it together, I guess.
I think the example that Matt brought up is a perfect example, where they're just trying to figure out a way to be able to recoup some of the investment that they're gonna put into the location. And that's one of the ways that we can actually have some leverage when it comes to deal, that they're gonna get something in return. And it helps, and once again, we don't wanna open it up to everything. I don't think it really helps, because there's certain things that are just naturally gonna help or are gonna happen around here. But if you're looking at something that is gonna bring a good revenue to bring taxation in, or something that brings in good revenue, taxation and sales, that's a good thing that would actually be able to help us out. I can tell you the restaurants and the stuff like that, those are gonna come. Those are gonna be natural. So I don't think we need to, unless you all feel that we need to go ahead and do an abatement for that, we can go ahead and consider that. Of course, anything can ask for a variance, and it comes in front of council in the future, but think of those things that would really benefit us in here to try to get us to the next level and be able to bring in some incentives. And when we talk about this, we have to take care of the city, but also take into consideration our school district and other partners that we actually have in here that would benefit by being able to bring in a facility like that would also help the school out to be able to either enlarge themselves or the programs that they have and everything else that goes along with that. So we gotta think of our partners too and how they're gonna be able to benefit out of it.
Yeah, so whatever we do does not affect the school. We can abate ours only. The school does not abate theirs. So they may not have to pay our property tax, but they would still pay the school tax or the county. Well, maybe they work out a deal with the county and have a partial exemption.
But that helps our school. It does. I mean, we can help them generate some revenue. It really does. So we might have still a community win in a different way that goes along with that.
So we're not talking about an individual store, we're talking more like a mall.
Shopping center.
A shop, an outlet or something like that. Something that you have a string of stores and stuff like that. That might be something that the council is interested. I know that's one of the things for this area that people have been asking for, to be able to have that. And if you can capture them before they get to San Antonio, instead of going all the way to San Marcos, that's something else that might be beneficial. And it's got a little footprint. When you do it with that, you'll have the traffic and all that other stuff and the sales, which is really good. But don't need to worry too much with the water and some of the other things that you would need at a higher level of support.
So since we're talking about types of property and stuff, if we'll jump to page 6 at the bottom under section 2, under abatement authorized, it talks about eligible premises. It says the premise may be eligible for abatement if it is a hotel and convention premise, manufacturing premise, office premise, data center, research premise, energy storage, distribution center premise, headquarter premise, regional service premises, regional entertainment premise, or other basic industry. So they gotta fit that mold, and then also the other molds in there. So when it talks about the hotel and convention premise, it goes back to what we had in definitions, right? So that defines as this with so many square feet, that's where we didn't need to go back and maybe fix that if we wanted to reduce those numbers. But right now, that is it. So if there's something you want to add or take out, hospital facility, medical or hospital.
Council, what would you
I don't know how you
prefer?
want
Medical/hospital would be good.
Medical.
Just say medical
or
center or
hospital.
medical
care or something.
Well,
Yeah, medical and or hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanna leave it open, obviously.
because if you got a really nice urgent care center here to do with beds, we have to turn them down because of all beds. I think it needs to be inclusive there.
How many rooms in our current hotel?
Ooh,
100 and
yeah, I don't know. It's been a lot of stuff.
So that 250 sounds helpful, right?
It does, but they're talking about a convention center type premise, which is gonna. I don't know. I don't want to say we'd never have a convention center, right? We don't know that, but I think that's what drives this. It's a hotel with a convention center, so that would normally have a bunch of hotels.
So normally a hotel chain by itself would not.
Yeah, it says hotel and convention premise,
Right.
so it couldn't be just a hotel,
Yeah,
unless we want to change that.
with the proximity to San Antonio, a lot of conventions are held in San
Yes,
Antonio.
sir. It's however we want to.
People coming from down south, hey, we're gonna be, it's
Catch
cheaper
up
here and we have competitive, rates. Hey, they're gonna save money, we're still gonna make money,
Yes, sir.
so, I think that the convention center,
Hotel
that would be something I think that's
Hotel
gonna drive.
/ convention premise, that way you can include one or the other, not hotel and.
I think it's in their hotel and convention.
You think that's fine like that?
I think so.
Okay.
If we wanna
Well,
have-
as long as we don't understand they have to be tied.
Tied together, that's my thing, I just wanna make sure, and legal can help us with that, but we want it to be a hotel and convention center, like however they wanna do it, we can do either one.
Yeah.
So then I guess let's jump back into the definitions then. And on page,
this is
Five.
a discussion.
under hotel and convention premise, right now it says, it'd have to have 250 or more hotel rooms. Are we okay with that number, or do we want to reduce that number?
It sounds high.
Sounds high to me too. Our current one's at 100.
100 plus.
What is the best one?
Let's say 100 plus.
A minimum of 100.
100 plus.
Okay. And then four more hotel rooms and more than 25,000 square feet of contiguous conference space. It shall also include facilities with 25,000 square feet or more of contiguous conference space without the requirement of a related hotel. So we're okay with the 25,000 square foot?
So I think what Charles brought up, I don't think would meet in that, because that definition is putting everything together. So I think we do need to separate the hotel by itself.
That's where the and/or comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, because on this one, when you read it, it means buildings and structures including machine creating of main purpose is to provide a destination conference facility to 250 or more hotels and more than 12. See how it's putting it all together? So it's looking at it being
That's one unit.
it's one unit. So I think we need to define.
We can do hotel and slash or,
Yeah, but we'll need to change the definition too.
and change it to say hotel.
We can put one just by hotel by itself. Maybe you should leave the 250, leave that one the same. It's a hotel with premise. Leave that one the same and just make one definition for hotel and just say,
Make another one for convention premise with 25,000 square feet.
no. Leave that one the same.
Okay.
Do one just for hotel and just put, 100 plus rooms facility.
Well, the way that they have this worded is that, you can get that, it would qualify, it's 25,000 feet or more contiguous conference space without the requirement of a hotel. So if like, we want to get a 250 room hotel, but less than the requirement for the convention space. So you're still, it's gonna cost more to build that extra, so if we say 15,000, 25,000 square feet, that's pretty sizable for a convention space. If we're just looking to get one company, or two companies, every big hotel I've been to with, a lot of that convention space goes unused.
Yeah.
Here would be my question. The city of Pearland and their attorneys didn't have a separate entry for hotel. It seems like it was a conscious decision not to have standalone hotel. So that would be a question we would need to ask someone that's smarter than our group here, who has more experience with this.
Yes.
Do we want a standalone item for hotel and a standalone item for hotel with associated convention space?
David,
I'm not against it for a hotel.
But
I'm
doesn't,
just-
doesn't it come down to whether the city wants to give the abatement for
Well,
that's-
ultimately it would,
that? I think we can simplify it. by
but
saying-
if we have a separate item, it's just a small paragraph.
Yeah,
And anybody asks for our resolution or our ordinance on tax abatement, we give it to them and it answers the question.
so then but to answer the question from Mr. Deere to move forward, would the council be willing to allow an abatement for a 100
100 plus hotel,
plus
hotel, period.
hotel? Yeah,
Standalone hotel.
Standalone hotel.
so would we consider that? I would say yes, we would consider an abatement.
Now, our current hotels not have, because we didn't have a tax abatement.
Yeah, they don't have.
So they're where they are, and that's what.
Just because we have a tax abatement doesn't mean, we just consider it, it doesn't automatically.
Yeah, it's not automatic.
Hey, you're coming out here, no, you know what, we're not issuing it anymore because we got too much stuff.
Yeah, it's on, they make application with the city, we review it, and then it comes to council, and then you decide whether or not you want to issue it for that business or not. Based on the premise.
So I would suggest that we put that at 100 plus for the hotel, and then like the mayor says, do the or with the hotel and the
Or convention.
25,000, or if we want to lower that. But give wording from legal on how to put that.
Right.
word.
The legal might already have it. I noticed that in Cibolo,
They don't have hotel in there,
they don't have it in there, but that's maybe just because
they're not
they already
enticing
have.
something, yeah, or
They
they already have.
don't.
Cibolo, from what I gather and what I've seen, is more of a executive type community. A lot of home versus So that may, because they've got the I-10 corridor that's still really undeveloped out there.
They got everything in there. I don't know if you heard the big announcement, they said it at Phil Medina, I saw it also in the news about the Chick-fil-A is opening a big distribution center there in Selma.
Well,
So that gives you an indication that corporate is actually gonna be expanding a lot more in this area and into South Texas. But we got folks running around in the headquarters with Vital shirts. And we gave out some T-shirts in the last visit, so they're running around in Atlanta with Vital shirts on, so.
So under the hotel, on the convention premise, you want to stay at 25,000 square feet or lower it maybe to 15,000?
just to throw out there, if we lower the bed space to 100, and we knock down the square footage to maybe 15,000, it might make it attractive to get people out of the Gonzalez Center up in San Antonio, where it's a high dollar to put anything in there, where they have a smaller group of people, we have a smaller
It's a
venue.
smaller type convention.
Yes.
Yep.
Get them out of the hustle bustle of the city, we still have restaurants and space, and
Yes, sir.
so I would be interested in, on that one, 100 beds or more and 15,000.
Okay, perfect.
We need to look into that and see what the other size is. We don't get, we don't know what our own capacity is, right? That's what's, I don't see anything on their website. I see rate 139, but not total number of rooms. But also, what I've seen in both of these programs is a specific area that is targeted for reinvestment. I mean, it's not a citywide thing, or is that what we're talking about? We're talking about citywide.
That's the next question I would have.
Is, you know,
This is more of a
needs to be, I mean, we're trying to steer where this is coming in at, and just, hey, you have to go here, you have to buy land here to build whatever it is you want. As you know, whether it be Main Street or 35 or, 2790, we have a couple attractive options.
So that's my next one. Do we want to steer it to and create a reinvestment zone? Like, this is it. You have to build in this zone in order to be considered for these abatements. I can tell you, we found Mayor, oh my God, how old was that ordinance? The city actually has an ordinance that created a reinvestment zone.
There is one,
It's very old. I never knew it existed. The mayor found it. But when you read it, the best I can tell from the reading it is, let's take 35, everything to the east of 35, all the way down. It actually went, I think, down to the rest area somehow. I don't know how we did that.
can you make copies of this?
And then I think it pushed up to Main Street at the city limits, crossed Main Street, and then hugged the coal mine subdivision, came back up to Main Street right along the west side of the railroad tracks along Adams, and ran back up there, kind of up to Main. If I remember it the best I can, it was really weird.
It was one contiguous thing. It wasn't like
Yeah.
you had 3-4 different ones.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like just here. It's like they
We're,
took 35 and that side and the south part of Main Street a little bit.
we're talking about this table, right? I mean, I know we're jumping all over the place, but the percentage of abatement, we have multiple zones. What's stopping us from offering a more attractive abatement, say for Main Street or for 35? It's like, hey, we want business coming here first, right? That's my thought on it, because I know that the biggest complaint that I hear all the time is Main Street.
So take your hat off and put your hat on as you're a property owner, a business owner on Main Street, right? And the city comes and says, we want you to clean up, we want to redo Main Street, make it look beautiful. We want you to take and spend millions of dollars fixing up your building to make us look good. And they do that. And then we just raise our property taxes. If we want a plan, then we go out and say, hey, if you will do this in this area, you raise it for the next 10 years or up to, however you want to do it, we can offer that abatement on that property and allow you to make your money back on your investment before we start taxing you. And that's really the way you're going to entice people with money, I think. So if I was that property owner and I wasn't doing a whole lot, I can think of a couple on Main Street that would tell us today to go fly a kite, I ain't doing nothing. because you're gonna raise my taxes, versus some that would probably say, you know what, that sounds good to me. I've got the money, I wanted to reinvest, I can reinvest and get the property, bring it up, and then maybe flip, get an abatement for a year or two before I flip it off to somebody else, and then they gotta pay the taxes on it. I don't care, I made my money.
You never know what's gonna happen. I think we need to kind of be targeted, but don't limit ourselves. I mean, somebody can come in tomorrow and say, hey, city, are you willing to sell this property? There's 3 open ones right next to here. We'll just buy all this and we're gonna go ahead and put a hotel, or we'll put a hospital, whatever it is. I mean, literally, all these lots are open. So, we want to incentivize, but at the same time, let's not restrict ourselves just to one particular area. Keep it open. You never know where the opportunity might be. I do agree with Charles that we need to make sure that we take Main Street, and it could happen in Main Street too. Let the person also help us out to make that determination if we want to incentivize too. But don't limit it too much. I'd rather go ahead and get a hospital that comes in here, and the hospital goes where the hospital wants to go, right? And we can.
Which is one likely probably be on the 35 corridor, I would think.
So.
Along with your bigger box commercial stuff, I would imagine would want 35 or right near HEB, where the automatic draws are.
So this is something that was put together back in 1993.
John?
1993. And you can take a look at it.
So I kind of read, you almost have to know the city when they start to describe it and picture it in your head and try your best. So I tried that as best I could, and that's what kind of the area I came up with.
So it talks about different areas in there that you have.
So this was the mindset. The city had this mindset years ago. I just don't know if it ever really kind of, but we've never had business come in and say, let's talk about
But it
that.
has to be in our jurisdiction.
Yeah. We have to,
Right?
Yeah, either jurisdiction or if we're incentivizing the ETJ also, that goes along. So you notice what Matt was saying, on here it says, and east along State Highway 132 to 20 miles of line of city limits, then across Union Pacific Railroad tracks to the southeast corner of Lytle city limits in the coal mine subdivision. So notice, and you can look on the top, it talks about I-35 on there, intersection of 3175 and Hoffman Road. So.
but some of the things we need to think about, let's say a big retail store wants to come in and build just outside the city in the ETJ. If we offered the tax abatement to them, that'd be great. They get off a little bit if we can do that in ETJ, but we don't get any of that sales tax money because it's not within the incorporated city limits of life. I would think if you want a tax abatement from us, the incentive is to be annexed into the city.
Correct.
That's my thing. I don't think we want to do it in ETJ. We want to have it as a reason to annex into
No,
us.
you're correct. But having them in the ETJ with the identification, with the
Yes,
understanding that they annex.
That'd be yes.
Yes, sir.
They have to be in the ETJ and make sure that it's contiguous with our current city limits.
That needs to be written into our plan. Again, if anybody picks this up, they know if they're in ETJ, they're gonna have to apply for it.
I think, well, I look at it more, but I think I don't think we can, because we don't tax into our ETJ.
Understood?
So you have, this would only be for the incorporated city limits of Blythe. That's the only way you get a property tax bill from us.
True.
So,
But that can be worded in there.
we can talk to legal. I don't know if it needs to be worded in.
I think that's the reason why
I think it's
the
already-
council came up with an
Reinvestment.
invested zone. So the invested zone is where we identify.
Okay. So if somebody wants to go into the ETJ, it's an understood thing.
If you want to get the tax
If you want
abatement, we
that,
only offer it if you're within our
You have to
legal
apply.
taxing
So I'm
jurisdiction.
building and then I find out that I'm not in your area, but I want an abatement, then I can talk to you and then you show me that document.
But you would know you're not in our area to begin with, because we wouldn't be issuing you any building permits. You wouldn't even be dealing with us. But when you come in, this would be on our website to entice business under economic development. And trust me, I guarantee if they're already looking at us, they're going to our website to look if we have this, along with the ones that have already asked. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think
So Matt, this has been good. We've thrown a lot of stuff because we're also trying to get familiarized and stuff like that. Let's go ahead, you wanna go ahead and use the one that you sent out?
yeah, we can keep working through that one.
Let's go through that one, and let's go ahead and answer all the questions that we actually have. Let's go ahead and cover that. And then we can take a look at SIP below and see if there's anything in there that goes along with that. But I think we're in a good foundation now, where we kind of understand what we should be looking for, what are the
As the
things.
best I understand. Next time we go with legal, they may have some more.
Yeah, we'll go through that, but this kind of gives us an idea.
So then on page 7, it talks about the creation of new value abatement may only be granted again for the additional value of eligible improvements incorporated into the premise subsequent to and specified in the abatement agreement between the city and the property owner, leasee or member of the affiliated group, which includes the owner, the property owner, and the leasee, in which controlling interest more than 50% is owned by a common owner, subject to such limitations as the city council may require. New and existing facilities at the premise abatement may be granted for new improvements to existing facilities at the premise for purposes of modernization or expansion. Eligible property abatement shall be limited to all or a portion of the value of the improvement as defined herein located at the premise. Ineligible property, the following types of property shall be ineligible for abatement: land, tools, furnishings, machinery and equipment, inventory, supplies, computers, and other forms of movable personal property which meet the definition of tangible personal property set forth above: vehicles, vessels, aircraft, housing and dwellings, retail facilities, and deferred maintenance. Leased facilities, leasehold interest abatement may be granted to the owner of a leased interest in real property, including tax-exempt real property located in a reinvestment zone designated to exempt all or a portion of the value of the leasehold interest in the real tangible property under that tax code section. Leasing interest abatement may be granted to a leasee of tangible real property located in a reinvestment zone to exempt from taxation all or a portion of the value of the improvements that meet the criteria of eligible property set forth above, owned by the leasee and located on the property that is subject to the lease. Owned leased facilities, if a leased facility is granted abatement, the agreement shall be executed with the leaseor and the leasee. The leasee shall be required to submit with the abatement application a copy of the executed lease agreement with the leaseor demonstrating a minimum lease term of 5 years. Under no circumstance will the term of the abatement be longer than the term of the lease. Publicly owned land leased to private entity shall be eligible if otherwise qualified. Value and term of abatement from ad valorem property taxes levied by the city shall be granted effective with a January 1 valuation date immediately following the date of execution of the agreement. Up to 100% of the value of eligible property may be abated for up to 2 years, depending during the period of construction, and for up to 8 years thereafter. The abatement may be extended through an initial agreement and a subsequent agreement as may be required to comply with state law regarding the term of reinvestment zone. If the period of construction exceeds 2 years, the premise shall be considered completed for purposes of abatement, and in no case shall the period of abatement inclusive of construction and completion exceed the 10-year mark. It is determined that the abatement period would better benefit the city and the applicant by deferring the commencement date beyond the January 1st following the city's authorization of abatement. The city may defer the commencement date of the abatement period to a future date certain. The deferral of the commencement date will not allow the duration of the abatement period to extend beyond the 10 years. Tax code there. If a project includes facility replacement, the abated value shall be the value of the new units less the value of the old units. Economic qualification: in order to be eligible for designation as a reinvestment zone and receive tax abatement, the planned improvement must be reasonably expected to increase the value of the property in an amount of $500,000 or more if the planned improvements are for the expansion of facilities already located in the city, or a minimum of $1 million for new facilities in the city, and must be expected to retain or create employment positions for a minimum of 10 positions in the city if the planned improvements are for the expansion of facilities already located in the city, or for a minimum of 20 positions for new facilities in this city. Is everybody okay with those numbers? That's just kind of what was there. must not be expected to solely or primarily have the effect of transferring employment from one part of the city to another part of the city, and must be necessary because capacity cannot be provided efficiently utilizing existing improved property. Taxability: from the execution of the abatement agreement until its termination, taxes shall be payable as follows. The value of ineligible property as provided herein shall be fully taxable. The base value of premises as determined herein shall be fully taxable. And only the additional value of new eligible property specifically identified within the abatement agreement shall be subject to abatement under this abatement agreement. Then down to the application portion, any present or potential owner of taxable property in the city may request the creation of a reinvestment zone and tax abatement by filing a written request with the city administrator. The application shall consist of a completed application provided by the city administrator and shall be accompanied by a general description of the proposed use of the general nature and extent of the modernization, expansion, or new improvements to be incorporated at the premise. A descriptive list of the improvements which will be part of the premise, a map of the property description, and a time schedule for undertaking and completion of the planned improvements. In all cases, a statement of the assessed value of the premise separately stated for real and personal property shall be given for the tax year immediately preceding the application. The application form may require such financial and other information as the city council deems appropriate for evaluating the financial capacity and other factors of the applicant. Upon receipt of a completed application, the city administrator or their designee shall notify in writing the presiding officer of the legislative body of each affected jurisdiction of the application and give written notice of a public hearing not less than 7 days prior to the hearing. Notice of the public hearing shall also be properly posted and published in the city's official newspaper not less than 7 days prior to the hearing. Before acting upon the application, the city shall, through public hearing, afford any interested party an opportunity to show cause why the abatement should or should not be granted. After receipt of the application for creation of a reinvestment zone and application for abatement, a feasibility study shall be prepared setting out the impact of the proposed reinvestment zone and tax abatement. The feasibility study shall include, but not limited to, an estimate of the economic effect of the creation of the zone, the abatement of taxes, and the proposed benefit to the affected jurisdiction and the property to be included in the zone. The city council shall not establish a reinvestment zone for the purpose of abatement if it finds that the request for the abatement was filed after the commencement of construction, alteration, or installation of improvements related to a proposed modernization, expansion, or new premise. Variance. Request for a variance from the provisions of Section 2 must be made in writing to the city administrator of the city or their designee, provided, however, that the total duration of the abatement shall in no instance exceed 10 years. The applicant shall include in the variance request a complete description of the circumstances the applicant believes support the requested variance. Approval of the request for variance requires a majority vote of the council.
Matt, I would say that we put a supermajority vote. And I say that not for this council in particular, but 20 years from now, right? Just like this came up from 30 years ago. If you get people on there, say they're not attending, say you only got 2 people showing up and they're the ones making all the decisions, that would require that you have a full council making this.
Council?
It sounds reasonable.
Right.
It's sponsored off a lawyer. Should be the same amount.
The only thing I like from the Cibolo, as you were reading, I was also comparing to the one in Cibolo that have on there. The one in Cibolo actually, upon receipt of written request for creation. In Cibolo, they give the flexibility on paragraph D. It's on page 5 on application paragraph D. I guess they can even request a creation of reinvestment zone or an application for abatement. They leave it open, in a sense of having an opportunity. If there's, you never know, in a sense of a chance to kind of link both of them together. So it's short, concise, what they have for the application compared to what you have over here. So.
However the council wants to move, I mean, we could, this is this application process. This one's a little simpler, and we can go with that. I mean, we can merge the two and how we want it. They take from this one, put into that one, and make our own document if we want.
I kind of particularly like
The civil application process.
simple to the point and gives you flexibility.
What's the date on the Pearland one? When was this adopted?
Let me grab my computer and check real quick.
'Cause I know I looked at the Civil one earlier and they adopted theirs in 2019. I mean, things have changed. That's why, thinking about the valuation on these things.
$1 million today is, golly, that's a 500 square foot house. In 4 years, you say, had like 20% inflation.
Twenty 2019. That's when the resolution was dated. So it's pretty accurate. I read.
So they're both 4 years ago. And the reason I bring it up is because it said cost increased, so changed. They may go back and revisit it and say, when needs to be updated.
And that's, I guess, when we get to the legal review, legal should say, hey, that worked in 2019, but in 2023, this is what we gotta do.
And then you just need to put a big question mark next to that chart and ask them, are these reasonable rates today?
Do we like, I kind of like the chart in the Civil. You don't like that? We want to include it?
And I think it's easy to read for somebody who's interested in the program. They don't, there's not a whole lot of explanation needed on it.
Yeah, and some paragraph H under the chart tells us what we need to know as a council, notwithstanding any other provision of the guidelines, criteria outlined in this policy. The city of Citadel shall have the authority to negotiate with applicant regarding terms, number of years, percentage of payment, blah, blah, blah. So that's a caveat we need to protect ourselves for anything in the future.
But if you notice what Matt was reading on the previous section and even on this one, 10 years is a max.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a max. We just kind of define what we're looking for. And and it does it on this one too. It talks about the construction portion of it and then the other. So, that's just like, and this is a true story. So there's some places in San Antonio, including in an Air Force base, where some facilities, you look at them and there's something missing. They might have 2 pillars and one has a decorative and the other one doesn't. The reason they did that is technically they were never complete, so they never had to pay. They were still under construction.
That,
So
in the Mediterranean world, that's a standard. If we move to Greece, you look at an apartment building, beautiful apartments, and the top floor is always just columns with rebar sticking out. And I asked, why don't you ever finish the buildings? Because it's not finished, we don't pay full tax on it. Ta-da. When are you gonna finish it? Well, I don't know.
So this, we don't need to worry about it. It's pretty much defined around it. But it's still, it used to be a practice in the US and I guess.
Oh, it's still a big practice over there.
So, there you go.
The only problem I have with the table is that it's very one-sided. If you have an industry coming in and they're asking for a 5-year abatement, it lowers to 25%. If you have a retail coming in and they want 5 years, they're gonna get knocked down to 25. However, they're bringing in taxes, they're bringing in, multiple jobs. It's very limiting as far as, when we were talking about the original document, we were gonna leave it up to the council to decide on what type of an abatement.
But I think over here on the left side, it talks about the amount of their investment. So if they're only gonna invest $1 million to $2 million, the city is not gonna look, in Civil, they're not gonna look for anything further than a 4-year abatement. And then based off that is how much they give you But if you go down, if they're investing 10 million or more, the city's gonna negotiate for up to 10 years and whatever they wanna give. If you're gonna do 4 to 10 million, the furthest you can get is 7 years at 25% or as negotiated. So I think it kind of depends some on how much I'm gonna invest, on how much the city's even gonna say we're gonna start out with, kind of thing. That's the way I read that.
I mean, what's the ballpark figure on what Stripes invested coming out here? They're the newest business that we've got open, right?
I don't know. I can tell you the way we do things now, I have to go back to the fire code, or to the fire one, tells the value, the way we don't, we can't do building permits by value anymore, it has to be by square footage, so that.
No, I mean, I'm sure it's on the appraisal district.
Yeah, we can look up that.
But I think that gives you a good indication of, I mean,
At least what they cost, yes,
they
sir.
spent.
No matter what we come up with, or what we create, we're still gonna have to redo this every couple of years, to keep up with prices.
I would think it's, so everything we do is a living document. This is what I would say, we're setting the playing field, right? At least we all kind of know what the playing field is, but there's room for negotiation within there. Now, at any time legislation comes in and it changes something, and we've gotten this, then yeah, we'd have to come back and change this to match what new legislation shows. And that's where the city attorney and stuff kind of tell you, hey, based on legal, we can't do that anymore, kind of thing. But yes, you're right. Depending on 2 years from now, or a new council may come in and say, a council comes in and say, hey, I saw we do that. I don't want to do that anymore. Bring that back before the council, see if we can terminate that whole policy. I mean,
And that paragraph H, just where the chart kind of covers this.
yes, sir.
If things change 2 years from now, we can say, this is a guideline, the chart's a guideline, come talk to us, make your request, and we'll make an agreement.
We can negotiate from there. Any agreement, and everyone's individual.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, I just, there's something about the table itself. I wish I had a better example, but, if a company comes in there and they're making widgets, they have 20 employees and they fit below that, let's say the $4,000 to $10,000 range. And then you have that same $4,000 to $10,000 range that's bringing in 3 department stores and a little gift shop, and they not only have customers, obviously probably won't be 20, but they also bring in,
Sales tax.
Sales tax.
That's where the council can go, you know what, we're gonna renegotiate yours because you're bringing in more of an investment, so we're gonna offer you more of an abatement.
So
possible.
the maximum abatements is what's bothering me.
Then maybe
Call them-
we can always, if we use this table, we can use that as a, they call it a guideline.
Suggested,
Baseline or something like that,
not necessarily use the word maximum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sample, I don't think it'd be appropriate to put above this, because it's not a sample, but if we could find some word to label this.
So I'll throw an amount out there, and since we brought up like hotel. So for a 100-room hotel, you're looking at somewhere between $7,500,000 and $50 million
To build.
to build.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking. So that just gives
It's a
you
big range.
Yeah, well, it depends on the luxury of the hotel that you're gonna put, You put a Motel
I mean, if you look
6
at
or,
just the sidewalks we're doing over at the school, that was what, 1.5 million somewhere,
It was like 1.9.
yeah, I mean, and that's just, you look at construction, that's simple sidewalks, So it doesn't take much to get high on this chart when you're doing construction, for a decent type of facility.
I think gives you an idea in a sense.
I think the one steakhouse place we kind of talked to a gentleman about, he was 5 million, 4 or 5 million?
Yeah.
And it was just a simple steakhouse with 2 lease locations. Wasn't nothing extravagant, but it's just construction costs are
So
high.
the numbers are definitely,
So then there's no benefit from the table. Right? If everything's gonna end up costing about 10 million.
well, the table just gives you the flexibility if we agree how much we would use the years that we would do the abatement. That's basically it.
But the table could help, because it talks about the application fee and tells you, based on that, how much you're investing, how much your application fee is immediately. I think those lower investments are gonna be your mom and pop operations, maybe along Main Street, stuff like that. And at least gives them a table to start with, because they're the ones that are probably not gonna come talk to us about tax abatement. They're gonna say, but they might go online and say, well,
Vital has any.
yeah, if they go online, and say, man, if I did that, I revamped it for $1 million, and I wanted to flip it in a year, well, the first year, I'm gonna get an 8% tax abatement.
So could we look
I'm already
at
paying taxes.
maybe changing the verbiage for that column, like David has suggested using?
Potential, maybe potential abatement,
Yeah,
or
something
something.
more flexible.
Suggested, example of possible, word something like that. Examples of possible abatement, parameters. Something along that line, just to let people know this is not cast in stone or bronze, this is a guideline.
Possible abatement.
Because I agree, with Michael, anybody who sees it is gonna say, oh, wow.
So then I think maybe
They're locked into that.
take the word maximum out of that column, just leave abatement. And then we name the entire spreadsheet, example of possible abatement,
There you go. Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Because you may say, you know what, based on who this is, we're gonna offer you more years or something. But okay, I'll do that.
But council, you probably, if you didn't catch it right now, and Matt was pointing out, if you notice, everything that you're gonna apply, there's gonna be a fee. So anybody's gonna go and apply, if we have a hotel comes in and says, hey, I wanna apply, well, based on the range that you're at, it's gonna cost you $3,000 just to apply. So it's not like they just turn in the application, there's gonna be a fee in order for you to apply.
And that's gonna
the
cover
process.
our costs
To
to
cover
do the research and stuff, just kind of like we did with the pit, they got.
And that's where the value of this chart comes in too.
Yes.
Because again, mom and pop on Main Street, $1 million to $2 million, $1,500 and they can make an application. It's attractive.
And it's not gonna take a whole lot of staff time to do that feasibility study.
Right.
Whereas,
Yeah, especially if they're gonna do
Million
improvements to their property.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those fees are up to date, right? I mean,
these are from 2019, I don't know. I couldn't tell
I
you.
just
We'd
going
have
back to the
look
fact that a
at-
lot of contractors have stated our fees are low.
Yeah,
So these would be up our.
I mean, 4 years old.
yeah, they're 4 years old, so,
I would just
Well,
call
with
it Civil and see what, hey, what is your current fee?
Then let me rephrase it, the fees you're gonna put are gonna be up to par.
yeah, we can look at that, we can look at it.
They just need to be in the 2023 cost.
I'll see if I can find some other examples online.
Matt, have you had a chance to look at the tax code yet on this, that governs everything that we're looking at today?
I have not read it completely, I know we fall under the,
I mean, I haven't read it all yet, but there's a certain industry, of course, that's probably prohibited due to our proximity to Lackland. It says 25 nautical miles. So we can't have any wind-powered energy. Not that we would,
Yeah.
I'm just saying it to include that. But I mean, there's a lot, and I think, of course, the basis that all this is off of is the tax code. So you don't talk about the guidelines, what can they be? And you might not be able to set them at 100% for 10 years or 90%. It might have to be that step down amount.
We'll get legal.
and that's where legal, yeah, because legal would be involved in this, because they're gonna work with us to create the agreement for us anyway.
And they'll have information from other cities in the area, the experts look into this,
Oh, yes.
they can give us current information.
And we'll, once we're done with this and we clean it up, I'll send it back out to council individually. If you have comments, send those back to me, so we can get us a good working copy that we're all happy with, that I can then forward that to legal and say, hey, can you start the review of this document? And tell me where we need to fix things, so we can maybe have another workshop.
You know, it talks in this about the criteria for a reinvestment zone, right? That's what I keep on seeing. It's like, all right, you want the tax abatement, but it's also, this is a reinvestment zone.
We gotta identify.
Is what it is. So, I mean, there's criteria for the reinvestment zone in 312.202. And it talks about, area must substantially arrest or impair the sound growth of the municipality creating the zone, retard the provision of housing accommodations, or constitute an economic or social liability, and be a menace to the public health, safety, morals, or welfare, welfare in its current condition and use because of the presence of, then it just goes through all the stuff. So we can't just slap it around
Yeah.
all over town. It's gotta
So-
be something that there's a need for it.
We skipped to it. Okay, I skipped through the resolution part. Come back to the very first of this, it talks about that property tax of 312. And I think that's where it's gonna go, hey, first and foremost, you're governed here. Then from there, here's that.
Yeah.
Maybe that, and like, we'll have legal look at that, but
I don't think, you can't say, hey, Saddle Ridge, you're reinvesting, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, you can't do.
You can't say Lakeshore, hey, Bloom Drive. I mean, certain areas in town, Railroad Street, Adams Street, maybe Main Street, sections of it, but
But right now, this is what's sitting in our books.
yeah, and I don't think, Mayor, that's not tax, that's what does that say? Enterprise zone. So, I mean,
Yeah, but it uses the terms I read somewhere where it said reinvestment, it's right down the top. Hereby is an enterprise zone and reinvestment zone.
well, no, I think that's not tax, it's not a tax abatement thing.
No, it's not.
It's just,
This
it's
is
just identifying the zones,
the
and then
zones.
maybe they never followed up with the actual tax abatement policy. I think maybe that's kind of what they were looking,
There's two places that I know of in the history of life that have ever had one, Camino Real and the oil exchange, whenever Larry Cromer built that 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So it has been used, but it hasn't been used widely.
Yeah.
So it was used, but I don't think, people
I can see.
needed it in the past.
But I can do is thumb through some of the filing, and fortunately, it's probably easier to find them from the previous city attorney's files, maybe see if there's something on that already.
You see who the mayor was at the time, John
John
McGinnis, and that was a brother-in-law deal with him and Mr. Cromer, because they were fishing buddies.
All right, so to continue on page 10, do we want to review the public hearing requirements? Do you want me to read that verbatim, or are we okay?
Sounds good. 7 days.
The next page, it talks about the agreement, so it's at least 7 days before the city council grants a tax abatement, it must deliver written notice of its intent to enter into the abatement agreement to the presiding officer of the legislative body of each affected jurisdiction pursuant to chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. Said notice must include a copy of the proposed abatement agreement. After proper notice has been given to the affected jurisdiction, the city council shall, at a regularly scheduled meeting, cast a vote concerning the adoption of the abatement agreement, which may be adopted only by a majority. And I know we had a question maybe about the supermajority, so I'm just gonna make a note there. Of the city council. If adopted, the city council shall then authorize the city administrator to execute the abatement agreement with the owner of the premise and or leasee as required. The abatement agreement may include any of the operational provisions allowed in accordance with chapter 312 of the tax code. The abatement agreement shall include a list of the kind, number, and location of improvements to the property, authorize inspection of the property to ensure compliance with the agreement, limit the use of the property consistent with the city's development goals, require the following of an annual compliance report with the city containing all relevant information necessary for the city's evaluation of the applicant's compliance with the terms of the abatement agreement, and provide for recapturing property tax revenues that are lost if the owner fails to make the improvements or comply with the annual compliance reporting requirements.
So by the time this comes to council for vote, it's already gone through council at least twice.
Yeah, because they would
This is
have
not
to
the
have
first
the
time.
application and say
So do we
moving
necessarily need the supermajority? It's already gone through council.
it's already had the
It's already
supermajority the first time.
made amendments and have agreed on it.
This is,
It's been posted to the public.
so I guess the first one is talking about we're gonna grant it. The second one is the actual terms of it.
The only
right?
reason I'm saying about the supermajority is because there's instances where somebody's not available.
And that could
It's
affect.
just, it could affect the council. And then if at that time, we're gonna take the final vote, whatever reason, that we don't have a full council, but we have a majority.
I can see
Quorum, I'm
that.
sorry.
A supermajority to even approve the abatement, right? Okay, we're gonna abate it X number of years for X number of percent. The full council agrees on that. We don't need the full council to
The final.
approve the agreement in writing, I guess.
Yeah, you could do it that way.
But I'm thinking about, Michael, it was not the council with its current composition. If you got 4 or 5 years from now, you have limited participation, you don't have 5 people showing up for a workshop. We've had that in the past. We've had 3 people there.
Well, but my understanding is it has to go through a regular council meeting prior to the notification, to the public notification.
You gotta have public hearings and all, yeah.
Right, so I understand the workshop, yes, a lot of them could not show up, but you're not doing any voting in the workshop, you're just creating.
I'm just using that as an example of council participation.
I know that's a problem, but I mean, I'm sorry, if that's the way it's gonna be in the future, that's a sorry sight for Lytle. I know what you're saying too, is.
And, I mean, look, last night we had a public hearing. Did anybody say anything? No.
We typically don't on public hearings.
But the thing is that what I'm getting at is this had already gone through council at least once prior to being posted. And then including the workshop, so.
And what I'm saying is if you have a council, we only have 2 people approving it, and you have those 2 people approving everything.
So then,
As opposed to having a full council, or
Right.
a super majority, say, well, actually, no, I object to this going in.
but see, you already have this posted publicly. Whoever wants to show up comes and shows up and makes their statement. And then we don't have the super quorum, then it has to be put off another 2 weeks.
Well, then that's gonna require council members to show up.
Right,
As
so
opposed to,
I just don't like putting that actual limitation on the council.
okay, I mean, we're not deciding anything tonight, we're just having.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be part of the verbiage though.
And in the past, anything that we look at is just a majority. We can ask legal and see what they've seen with some of the other
Okay.
cities, if they might actually look, and then we can.
So the previous one where we talked about a supermajority talks about approval of a request for a variance,
Yeah, the variance.
not anything further. So that's what we talked about. So that would just be a variance. So I was wrong.
So
We
the
haven't
approval of
already voted
variance,
on.
not-
That would only be if there's a variance. Our policy says you can't do it if you've already started construction. They meant to do it, but they forgot to start construction. They come in and say, we want a variance to this part. That's gotta go to a vote. Then they can make application, do everything, and then at the end, once it's all approved, we enter into the agreement, and that's the final vote.
Okay, so we can do the supermajority prior to the public notice.
Well, but no, you can't vote on anything if you have public notice. The variance, they kind of moved them around, right? A variance would only come in the form of an application. They're applying for it, but they need a variance because you don't need council vote to apply. Anybody can apply if they meet what they believe are the criteria and they pay us a fee. They don't need council vote to apply. We start the process. Then we come due, everything matches the council, we hold public hearings to do everything, we draft an agreement, council holds a vote, boom, it's done, it's over with. The only time we talked about the supermajority before is if I forgot to do this and I started construction. Now I want it, but I need a variance to your policy to even apply again.
That's only for a variance. Okay.
That's only for a variance that we talked previously about a supermajority. This would be the vote right here.
That would be acceptable.
So then a supermajority on the
On the
agreement.
variance only, yeah. Only on the variance,
Supermajority only on the variance.
yes,
Okay.
I could understand.
But just a majority on the agreement.
Yes.
Anything less than majority wouldn't pass, so.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll throw another one out there that I've seen with some of the other cities too, where they actually have a variance and it's something that is not identified as a tax abatement. It's not listed, it's an industry, but they want to still come to council. They want to ask, see if they could be accepted into the tax abatement portion of it. That could also happen. They want to go ahead and ask for a variance, that could be another possibility. Just to let you know.
Yeah, Dave, but I found it going back to the tax code, that percentages in the tax code. So it talks about, it's 312.211. So that's where that table comes from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's, that's what the law says.
So that, okay. Then that may be, we may be stuck to that.
Yeah.
That's what the law says.
Maximum.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. The legislature's only gonna give us so much, and we can't do more than what they're
That's
doing.
legal, that's the reason why.
Okay.
I mean, they'll give us an idea, see what we have.
Okay, so moving on, under B there, if the council fails to adopt the abatement agreement, the city shall notify the applicant of the disapproval. Such notification, to be in writing and to be sent within 60 days of the council decision. An abatement agreement approved by the city council shall be executed by the city administrator within 60 days after the applicant has forwarded all necessary information and documentation to the city. No later than 90 days after a reinvestment zone has been designated or an abatement agreement has been executed, or July 1st, whichever occurs first, the city shall notify the comptroller of the state of Texas as required by law. Upon execution of the abatement agreement, a copy of the agreement shall be provided to the chief appraiser of the appraisal district within the jurisdiction over the reinvestment zone. City administrator shall have administrative authority to extend the initial deadlines contained in the abatement agreement for obtaining a certificate of occupancy, operation of a facility, and job creation and retention for a period not to exceed 1 year. In the event of an extension pursuant to this section, the effective date of the abatement shall be adjusted accordingly. And any additional extensions to the abatement agreement must be presented to the city council for approval. Annual abatement filings, the company is required to make additional filings with the appropriate county appraisal district or other state or local offices or agencies annually or from time to time in order for the abatement agreement to have full force, effect, and applicability. These filings shall be the responsibility of the company, and in no way shall the city, its elected officials, officers, employees, or assigns be responsible for the timely filing of any form or documents except those set forth by law on behalf of the company. These filings may include, but are not limited to, the application for property tax abatement exemption, comptroller form number 5116, which must be filed with the appropriate county appraisal district between January 1st and April 30th for the property owned as of January 1st of the year in which the abatement is to be applied. Failure to comply to meet the filing obligation with the appropriate county appraisal district or other state, local offices and agencies shall not be grounds for extension of the term of the agreement. The abatement agreement will contain a provision specifying the rate and terms of the repayment of the public subsidy plus interest should the company be convicted of knowingly employing an undocumented worker in violation of 8 USC section. Recapture. In the event an abatement agreement is approved by city council, the agreement shall include recapture provisions substantially similar to the following. If a company fails to meet the capital improvement funding conditions of an abatement agreement by the agreed upon improvement completion date, the city may, at its discretion, terminate the abatement agreement and require the company to immediately repay the entirety of any amounts abated under the agreement plus interest at a rate of 4% plus prime, as published in the Wall Street Journal, per year, compounded annually from January 1st of the year following the execution of the abatement agreement to the date of the repayment. If after the end of the calendar year, a company fails to provide any annual compliance reports related to the funding condition to the city of Lytle required under the abatement agreement by the deadline for that year, the abatement for the year for which verification was not timely provided according to the terms of the abatement agreement may be forfeited at the discretion of the city, and the company shall have 30 days to pay the city any outstanding damages for failure to provide verification. If the company does not make payment to the city during the 30-day period, this abatement agreement shall terminate. If a company fails to meet the funding condition required under the abatement agreement by the deadline for that year, the abatement for the year for which the funding condition was not previously met to the terms of the abatement agreement may be forfeited at the discretion of the city, and the company shall have 30 days to pay the city any outstanding damages for failure to meet the funding condition. The company does not make payment to the city during the 30-day period, the abatement shall be terminated. In the event a company allows its ad valorem taxes owed to the taxing jurisdiction to become delinquent and fails to timely and properly follow the legal procedures for protest and/or contest of any such ad valorem taxes, then the abatement agreement shall be in default. In the event that the company defaults in this manner and has not cured such default within 60 days of said default, the abatement may be modified or terminated by the city. If at its discretion the city modifies or terminates an abatement agreement because the company allows its ad valorem taxes owed to any taxing jurisdiction to become delinquent and fails to timely and properly follow the legal procedures for protest and or contest of any such abnormal taxes, the city may at its discretion require the company immediately repay the part or the entirety of the amounts abated under the abatement, plus interest at the rate of 4% plus prime, published in the Wall Street Journal per year, compounded annually July 1st of the following executed of the abatement agreement to the date of the payment. In the event a company shall move the employment positions or improvements outlined in the abatement agreement from the premise during the term of the agreement, then all abatements of tax previously earned under the abatement agreement may be refundable to the city by the company, and the abatement agreement may terminate at the discretion of the city. After notice, the company shall have 30 days to pay outstanding damages to the city for failure to meet any of the requirements in this section. If the company does not make payment to the city during a 30-day period, the abatement agreement may terminate at the discretion of the city. No party shall be required to perform any obligation under the abatement agreement or be liable or responsible for any loss or damage resulting from its failure to perform so long as performance is delayed by force majeure, how you say, I think, or acts of God, including but not limited to strikes, lockouts, or labor shortages, embargo, riot, war, revolution, terrorism, rebellion, insurrection, flood, natural disaster, or interruption of utilities from external causes. Should the city determine that the company is subject to any recapture provisions according to the terms and conditions of the abatement agreement, the city administrator or their designee need not provide any written notice to the company of the fact that it is subject to a recapture provision. Any notice of recapture provided by the city may be made via electronic mail. All taxes abated shall be deemed due and owing to the city at any point that the company cannot pay its bills and they come due. If after a company is no longer able to pay its bills as they come due, it files for protection from its creditors by any chapter of the bankruptcy code, the city may, at its discretion, pursue the abated taxes as a creditor in the bankruptcy for unpaid property taxes subject to any and all tax liens applicable thereto. Section administration, the abatement. Yes, sir.
Brief.
Let's roll. So I'm good.
Okay, so here's one thing I want you to ask. Did you ask our attorneys with the Cibolo one why they didn't include a recapture on their version? Just ask them, because it is good to have all that. I mean, kind of, hey, if something goes wrong, you know, what happens afterwards. But I noticed that on the Cibolo, there's nothing.
They don't have anything about it.
No, so just ask them. I don't know if maybe there was a change or that's guidelines that are established somewhere else or something else. But I noticed that it's not on there. Okay.
Not just for grammar purposes, paragraph 8, second sentence should start with capital letter I if it's lowercase I.
Oh, I see that's what it
It
is.
just looks better when it's correct.
Okay. Got it. Administration, the abatement agreement shall stipulate that employees and or designated representatives of the city will have access to the reinvestment zone during the term of the abatement to inspect the premises, determine if the terms and conditions of the abatement agreement are being met. All inspections will be made only after the giving of 24-hour notice prior to notice, and will only be conducted in such manner as to not unreasonably interfere with construction and or operation of the premise. All inspections will be made with one or more representatives of the company and in accordance with its safety standards. Upon completion of construction, the city or designee shall annually evaluate each premises and prepare a written report of possible violations to the abatement agreement to the city council, the city administrator, and the city attorney, and provide written notice of the report to the applicant that such property has been submitted. Assignment: the terms and conditions of the abatement agreement are binding upon successors and assigns of all parties hereto. An abatement agreement may be transferred or assigned by the company only upon written permission by the city in accordance with these guidelines, which permission shall not be unreasonably withheld. No assignment shall be approved if the assigner or assignee is indebted to the city for ad valorem taxes or other obligations. The company.
Can I stop you there? And I'm sorry. I'm kind of stuck still on the previous section on B. So who would do the inspection? It says upon completion of the construction, the city or designee shall annually evaluate the presence and prepare a written report of possible violations to the abatement agreement. to the city council, the city administrator, and the city attorney.
That was my question.
I think it could be, it leaves it open. The city, which
One
is
step
any
further, who
representative,
pays for that?
I'm sorry,
And one step further, who pays for that?
that's just what we're doing to ensure they're meeting what they're supposed to.
Right, and the city's paying.
So
for
we
that?
did, yeah, that's just part of the agreement. You know that the city, which is any employee of the city, or our designee, some third party, is gonna be able to inspect you to ensure you still comply with the agreement we have on file.
I figured that'd be taken from the application fee. As far as covering the cost of that.
That might be
I'm
covered.
just wondering who it'd be. I know in the PID, we have a PID administrator, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I never seen.
I think it leaves it open. I mean, some of these might be so small that it's just staff. But maybe this is something maybe there's an organization that does these, I don't know. But it's just, we have the agreement, these are the stipulations that y'all are supposed to be doing. It's, year 2, we're coming in, we need to see how many employees you still have on your books. You have 20, great, they're still here. You're meeting all these, maybe as quick as that, you're meeting all stipulations, you're fine, you're good to go. We check internally, you're not behind on any bills, we're not getting calls from anybody, you're paying our utility bills on time, all the other taxes are up to date.
If you can, see if that's included or suggested in the fees. Good question.
We have code compliance also, this, that could be something.
That could be
He
something.
or she could do, or be
Yep.
trained to do.
That'd be interesting who Civil uses. Right? It's just, it says create annual, it's an annual evaluation,
That's
right, and a written report on possible violations.
We end up having 25 companies on abatement. That's gonna be a pretty
Yeah,
time-consuming job, right?
exactly.
But we may see that as we get those and they come up, then in that subsection B, we add verbiage that says, and the cost for said inspection shall be covered by said company or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, it's just what I'm thinking. Okay.
And the city secretary will prepare a written report of possible violations.
What? She's like, I'm sleeping over here.
It's
Matt's
like,
reading this, put me to
I
sleep.
want to do it.
It's like in school, right? Somebody's reading, you're just like,
well, thank you for, I'm sorry, so going back, I think we were.
I'm at the company.
We're
Yeah, I'm
at
at
the
the company.
obligations.
The company or any other legal successor thereto, or prior assignee thereof, may assign its rights and obligations under the abatement agreement, including by merger or operation of law, to any legal successor or any person or entity that acquires all or substantially all of its business and operations. In addition, with the prior written consent of the city, which consent shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed, the company and or legal successor company thereto, or prior assignee thereof, may assign its rights and obligations under this abatement agreement to any parent or wholly owned subsidiary that is currently that it currently has in place or later establishes. If it is constituted as a separate legally recognized business entity, any such assignment will be made without additional consideration being payable to the city. An abatement agreement shall survive any sale, change of control, or similar transaction involving the company, any successor thereto, or prior assignee thereof, and no such transaction shall require the consent of the city. The company shall provide the city written notice of any assignment, sale, change of control, or similar transaction pursuant to the section as soon as possible, and in no event later than 30 calendar days of the date, 30 calendar days following such event. Sunset provision, these guidelines and criteria are effective upon the date of their adoption and will remain in force for 2 years, at which time all reinvestment zones and tax abatement contracts created pursuant to its provisions will be reviewed by the city council to determine whether the goals have been achieved. Based on that review, the guidelines and criteria will be modified, reviewed, or eliminated, providing that such actions shall not affect existing abatements.
So that last sentence
So it goes back to what Miguel said.
Yeah.
2 years.
Every 2 years, we're gonna review it anyway.
They'll come back.
But that's what I just showed Michael, that that's what tax code specifies that, and it says 3/4 majority. So it is a super majority.
In the tax code, it calls
That's
for
what the tax code says. The guidelines and criteria adopted under this section are effective for 2 years from the date adopted. During that period, the guidelines and criteria may be amended or repealed only by a vote of 3/4 of the members of the governing body. I guess that's just,
So
that is to change this, I
To
guess,
change it, yeah.
once we do it.
So once we adopt it, we're good, regular majority. But if we want to amend it or anything else, it takes a super majority to do that.
I mean, that would kind of fit in if we're trying to have a supermajority on the variance portion of it. It kind of fits into the tax code. Okay, look, this is, we approved it, but we're gonna change it. You're
Yeah,
gonna require
and it requires a super majority, that makes sense. I'm sure it's about that.
I personally, after looking at both of them, I kind of like the one from Cibolo, except for missing the recoup portion of it.
Yeah.
You know, being able to do that, and just some of the verbiage, little things here and there.
If y'all want, we can do this. I can email the Cibolo one here, I know you got a copy there, but I can email the Word version, and you've got the Word version of the resolution here. We can maybe, you tell me how you wanna move stuff, right? Hey, we like the Cibolo like it is, actually leave it here, but take from this one and place this in there. We want this to be in that one, or however you wanna work, and I can create that document and create that final working one maybe.
What's stopping us from having a worker, like when we have these workshops, for example, we have our iPads, whatever, you know, tablets, and having a document that we can all make our notes on as we go, to lessen the workload for you later.
We don't, so we can create, I can do it right now, create a Google Doc.
A shared document, that way, you know,
We can do it.
whenever you gotta go make the revisions that we talked about, but you're not spending 4 hours, you're spending an hour.
Just accept them.
Yeah.
That's how we do now with the agendas. The attorneys just make revisions in Word. And we're happy. I mean, I can send them both to you in Word. You just click, track changes and then copy and paste it where you want it. And it's gonna tell us who's making those changes, and then we have it, send it back in and we go.
My suggestion would be to do the Cibolo, but include all the numbers that we talked about in the original document. The
Okay.
100 plus and the
100.
the number of employees, because the number of employees is different than what's listed here. So, yeah, have the numbers that we talked about and agreed on when we went on the initial.
Okay.
And incorporate that into the Cibolo.
And then take the recapture. Take that
Yeah, and
recapture
then- yeah,
clause
and
and
then
throw it
that
in.
is-
Okay.
And just find out, there might be a reason why they didn't put it in there, because there's a separate document that is
Maybe so.
added to this, but to me, we need to do the recapture. If somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, we gotta have something to back us up for them to.
And it's in the agreement that everybody signed.
And then based on what Charles was saying, the table, I think, stays as is.
Yeah, I think so. I think you might be right. Yes, sir.
And it also includes what we were talking about earlier, the medical, hospital.
Yeah.
facilities.
Yeah, those
Got that,
numbers
yeah.
and all that. verbiage.
Do we want to go, so they have, I haven't really looked at civil laws here.
They had,
Do they have a list of, okay, they do have some in there, okay.
they had a manufacturing facility, research facility, distribution center facility, regional service facility, regional entertainment facility,
You want me-
for commercial facility.
And then
Do you want me to take what's in the other one that we covered and copy those items and put in place of those?
I would say
Okay.
anything that we talked
But
about.
add,
as far
like
as-
Miguel said, we
The
need
medical,
the.
yeah, I've got the
hotel.
list, yeah. And the whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I can make that change.
Or the hospital, I'm sorry, hospital.
Yeah, medical slash,
Hotel,
yeah.
yeah. Separate, but
Were
then,
you were suggesting 50 plus one? Or for
100
the
plus.
hospital?
oh,
Oh, for
for the
hospital.
hospital, I think
medical facility.
I think we said just fit a medical facility, right? That's what we agreed.
I think-
Everybody feels comfortable with.
Hospital slash or medical.
Yeah, I don't think we want to say. So I'm gonna use an example. There was a time my wife got sick. We went to one of those standalone ER hospitals, right? I think they had the ER kind of urgent care on one side, and they had 5 or 6 beds on the other side. But that ER doctor and staff worked both sides. So she actually was there for probably 2 or 3 days till we had to transfer out because she needed additional
Sounds
care.
like the facility just south of the mall up here.
Yeah,
South
the.
Park.
Exactly,
Baptist
same
Emergency
concept.
Hospital, yeah.
It's
Takes
kind
up
of
less
a,
than a square block. It's
Yeah, they have all the
one-story
facilities
building.
in there.
It's a mini hospital.
Can you look up the term of that and see what that is referred to?
Yeah, that's the Methodist, Methodist
If it's a
Emergency
It's
Hospital.
just a regular-
With Baptist, it's not good.
It's a 25 bed, I think
It's
it's
an
a 20,
emergency hospital.
I think it's a 25 bed, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, whatever.
Mayor, you had the question about why the recapture wasn't in this, the criteria, it's in the actual, in their ordinances that they create, it's ordinance 1273 is civil law as an example.
And that, okay, so I didn't,
And then it talks about, property tax revenue loss as a result of the tax abatement agreement will be recaptured by the city if the owner of the property fails to make
It's on
it. So once a property is identified as a reinvestment and you do another ordinance for that, that's whenever that gets included. You say, hey, if you don't do
Okay.
it, then you're gonna be on the hook, so.
As long as we get it.
it's create, because each one will probably be created by ordinance or resolution.
That's my, because they
Okay.
name it whatever, they name this one specifically reinvestment zone number 1.
Okay.
So can we go ahead and include it in the document then?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts.
And I mean, for
It'd be good.
public's education, maybe that'll lessen any questions down the line. Hey, read this. This is what you're gonna have to do.
It's not gonna hurt to have it in there twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put medical and just put / urgent care clinic,
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah, just kind of list them all in there, and then the council, we don't necessarily have to put the number of beds, the council's gonna determine everything based off of your program, what you're doing. And I'm doing just a urgent care with no beds, well, council says X for that one, but I'm doing the same thing with 15 beds. Oh, well, we like that a little more, we'll give you more.
We have the flexibility.
A good call. That's the only way, honestly, Council, and that plus a few other things that are in there. But I know our number one, if there's anything that we really need to push is for some sort of tax as a hospital. I mean, it's
Some sort of medical
it's a
facility will
need.
be lack.
It's a definitely need and stuff. The other ones, just like Charles said, we gotta look at how do we capture, do we get a little bit extra, whether it be hotel tax or sales tax or something that goes along with that, or something that goes along with maybe we take a little bit out of the city, but it helps our partners like the schools and stuff like that. Because we gotta be able to bring,
But even that, we're not really taking anything, in the whole scheme of things, we're not really taking anything out of the city, right? Because if I'm already valued at X, I'm still getting taxed on that. If I reinvest and come in and build more, I'm just not getting that little extra. The city's not gonna get that little extra. But that little extra is gonna create money elsewhere somehow. So we're gonna get extras.
I mean, if you
Goes
have enough
away.
well-paying jobs,
Yeah.
people are gonna buy homes
They're
there,
gonna- Exactly.
Sure. You have the
They're gonna shop
housing,
here.
the housing capacity is present, and they're gonna buy a home.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get ad valorem taxes from them on their property tax.
Yeah. So I think it's good because we're too many times, I can tell you my time here, I heard the horror stories of, well, we don't want to give away that $50. Hey, but we could give away 50 and maybe we made 200, elsewhere, that's.
so to answer the question, the tax abatement one, no, but I can tell you from the time that I've been on council and doing some, yeah, we've lost. We have lost great opportunities because we dragged our feet and didn't make a decision. We waited too long to respond to the request. When these companies come and they say, hey, are you interested, be able to do this, we didn't do what we were supposed to do and we lost,
And companies are doing their research long before they even call us anyways. What cities in that, I want to build in this geographic area, what city offers me what? We're already enticing because our taxes are lower, our utility rate, everything here is lower than everybody else around us. Now we're saying, hey, you can also get this. Here's why you come to Lyle, Texas. And when it's here, we may not get that ad valorem tax, but the people from over there are gonna come there, they're coming here because it's new. So we're gonna get the money.
As much as I don't want nobody moving behind us, Garcia's property over here, hospital wouldn't be a bad idea there. But I'd rather have a hospital than 100 houses behind me.
Remember what you just said when we got to
What
the
you don't want
budget?
Obviously, yeah.
No, and that's all.
You know, we need to look at a map, I feel like we need a big map. Maybe back there or somewhere, and I guess we put one on the screen of the city, you know, talking about
Trying to
specific
identify zone.
areas, you know. Because, you know, Richard mentioned the land over there by his house. I think, Garcia, they already came to the city a couple of years ago, wanted to put a subdivision back there. Because talking about hospitals, in my mind, looking at the roads and stuff, the best area is probably out here between 132 and 35 to have access to, you know, getting off. You're getting off right there at that first exit into Lyle. They come in and we can have a means to get to the other side of 35 to go north. Hospital district, but that's something different entirely.
Garcia's other land,
Yeah, I mean, because there's not a whole lot of land in the city limits that's still.
I think one of the biggest chunks we have is, you know, Debbie Creek, which is prime because of the way it touches the frontage road, 132, and McDonald, right across from HEB. That's prime property. A lot of the other stuff was bought up with the developer. So I can tell you some of the calls we're getting now that have kind of talked about this is in our ETJ, and they've talked about annexation. I don't think they're not against it, but they're also, well, what, you know, what would benefit me if I did annex it? Why would I want to just be annexed in? Because if I build and just put it there, your people are to come to me anyway.
We got folks that are coming that are not even close to us. We're in the region and they're asking questions also.
I mean, that has to be a voluntary annexation.
Yeah.
You can't forcibly
No,
annex
no.
anybody, so, I mean, really, the largest tracts of land in the area is between Lytle and McCost. You know, as far as having the infrastructure in place, because we got the water out there, but then somebody wants to come out there, they want to get annexed, well, sewer, you know? How are they gonna get, we'd have to have another sewer plant?
Or build bigger lots that allow for set. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
I mean, I'm just.
I really envision in the next 10 to 15 years, that corridor between us and McCost is all residential.
Well, you know that area between Lyle and McCost, whenever San Antonio International was looking to build their airport, that's where they looked. They looked between there and where they ended up. So we were, you know, whatever, that close to having an international airport out here.
We were super close. Remember
65 years ago. So
the Lowe's distribution center out here on the McDonald property, but I think it was Schertz at the time got it because they gave them a bunch of land. So it just made it more tight and it turned out to be polluted.
And another, I mean, this is completely off topic, but 2790 between here and McCost is terrible. It's, you know, I don't know what we need to talk, TxDOT, I guess.
TxDOT, a big
They're
corridor.
Medina, Bear County.
They're fully aware. They said that they already received some money, but the amount that they're talking about is not gonna touch the distance that need to cover.
That's what, 7 miles between here and McCost, so you're looking at probably half of, you know, that whole road needs to go away.
Yeah, it's probably,
And you know, you're probably looking at a $10 million project, but I think that's an area that's gonna have a lot of growth in the next 10, 20 years. I don't see it spreading as much out that way any further. I think people will hold on to their 10-acre tracts, right? You have some larger subdivisions out there, but that's all 100, 200, 400, 500 acre tracts.
So this is the big one that people are looking
And
for right
I
now.
don't see King Ranch selling the grass farm that they acquired off 2790.
Yeah.
You know, they're big conservationists, and that's a good thing, though, in a sense, because that's 1,800 acres, more or less. So, anyways, I'm just thinking about how bad 2790 was. I went that way today, and I was just like, man, I'm almost tempted to go the back way, you know, don't even go down 2790.
I was doing bike patrol school. We used to ride from Lytle to LaCoste and back on that road. I don't know how the heck we never got ran over, but
Yeah, there's no shoulder.
nothing, there's nothing.
Yeah, 70 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
70, yeah, and people died at 80. And it's terrible.
I'll work on these. I'll try to create a single working document based off the comments tonight, and then send that out to everybody in a Word document. And then if you wanna make some changes, just hit the track, track changes and make your changes.
How much time do you think to be able to get it out, Matt? You need reasonable.
Let me update you, and this week I'm not gonna probably be able to work on it at all. I've got a full slate already this week, and I'm working on the, where we hit the big 12-inch valves over there with TxDOT. They sent all that back, and I get supporting documents to get our money back on that, along with other construction stuff. You know what? The week after that, the week of the 7th, when we have our budget workshop, the 7th through the 11th, I'm taking a week of vacation, but I'm not going. I'm just gonna be at home so I can watch my younger kids while my wife's out. So that'd be a good time for me to catch up on some of this work while I'm just going to sit home anyway. So let me work on it.
You're not gonna be taking vacation, right?
So,
I'm just saying.
so if he works on it, council, and he sends it out to
Some
us,
comp days are-
would you be able to turn it around in like 5 days? If he gives us 5 days? Would you be able to review it and send comments back?
Okay.
So whenever you're ready,
Okay.
just add 5 days, go ahead and send it out and ask for everybody to submit their
Okay.
stuff.
Yes.
That
I'll
way
do that.
we keep a timeline.
Hopefully for April,
Do that.
and just the August 7th, I'll work on this, but I also need to complete I haven't forgot about the street light policy program, but they went to CPS and we finally got it back from them, and there's a lot of comments.
Yeah.
So I'm working through their comments, trying to fix that up before I send it back out to them. So you'll see their comments, my changes. There's a lot of that, so I'm still working on that too, but I'll try to get that completed with.
Was they working on it today?
I don't know.
I saw it, but it wasn't CPS. I don't know if they farmed it out, but
It'll be another contract.
there was 2 trucks out there, then one something happened to one truck because they got towed off. One of the
Yeah, I'm sure it's
trucks
third
was
party.
towed off.
I've asked for an update, but
They were in there doing something.
I'm sure they are. I hope they are, quick.
Council, you have anything else?
I would just look on tax code too, Matt, when you
Okay.
get a chance to,
I'll
especially
print
the criteria, because, we're talking about what really can disqualify, but I think what is gonna benefit us, the predominance of defective or inadequate sidewalks or streets. So the fact that we have bad streets, we have no sidewalks, that a lot of this will.
So what I'll do before we come back to you, once we get all the data right now, but we finally got that good final, we think, I will set up a workshop with legal, with Jesse or somebody, and we'll work through some of this and make corrections. That way, once we get to council with it, it's a pretty good copy.
Okay, so we got 8:11 PM, if nobody has anything else.
What's that building being, added to, Culebra? The one that's all,
There,
An extension.
yeah, if we want to close the workshop,
Yeah,
and
that's
then I can talk to you
Let's
directly
go ahead
about
and
it.
close it, and we can turn off the camera. So 8:11, we're good? 8:11, we'll go ahead and close it out. Appreciate it. Thank you. Turn on the mics, turn off the mics.